Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to completely dismantle the myth of the money-printing gas station. Look, if you've ever watched thousands of gallons of fuel being pumped every single day and just assumed the owners were swimming in cash, well, you're definitely not alone. But the actual economics behind this everyday business, they are completely misunderstood. Let's get right into it.
I mean, you drive past one, every single day? The prices are flashing on that massive bright sign, cars are lined up pumping hundreds of gallons an hour, and it's human nature. You automatically do the math in your head. You see $3 a gallon, 10 pumps going nonstop, and you naturally assume the owner is just making an absolute fortune off fuel, right? You're probably thinking, man, I want a piece of that action. Well, here's the reality check. This business is far more fragile, way more complicated, and honestly, a lot stranger than anything you'd imagine while standing there squeezing the pump. And here's the biggest plot twist of all. The fuel you're actually buying, it's almost an afterthought to the people who own the place. Seriously.
Before we even talk profits, we have to understand that not all gas stations are actually the same business. From the street, sure, they all look identical, but behind the scenes, they're running completely different financial models. You've got your independent owner holding maximum risk on their very own land, but then you have a franchise operator paying massive royalties just to use a big brand name. Throw in company-owned sites, dealer operators, and lease operators, and you've got a whole spectrum of ways this game is played.
And just getting your foot in the door requires massive capital. The barrier to entry isn't just having the cash to buy fuel. It's the absolutely staggering infrastructure costs. We're talking between $2 and $5 million just to build a modern station from the ground up. You're paying for massive underground storage tanks, heavy-duty piping systems, those giant engineered canopies, and a mountain of environmental permits. All of that before you can sell a single, solitary drop of gasoline. Okay, so the station is built. Now owners have to make a huge choice about their fuel supply. It's a classic trade-off. Do you go branded? That gives you stability and priority supply, but you're locked into a major oil company contract for 10 to 15 years. Or do you go unbranded? That gives you flexibility and slightly lower base costs, but you are totally exposed to the wild volatility of the open market. If there's a regional fuel shortage, the unbranded guy is left fending for himself. Neither option is perfect, you know?
So, let's break down a hypothetical $3.11 gallon of gas. It is honestly shocking how little the station actually keeps. Right off the bat, 60% of that goes straight to the crude oil market. Poof, gone. Then, state and federal taxes take an average of 50 to 60 cents straight off the top. Add in freight and refining costs, and suddenly, the station's gross margin shrinks down to a tiny, tiny sliver. We're talking roughly 30 to 35 cents a gallon.
Oh, but wait, it gets worse. Out of that tiny gross margin, the owner still has to cover operating costs. And here is a totally staggering fact for you. Banks actually make more per gallon in credit card swipe fees than the station owner makes in actual net profit. Since about 85% of us pay with plastic, the bank just swoops in and takes roughly an 8-cent cut on every gallon. So the real takeaway here, after all the expenses are paid, the owner's actual net profit on a gallon of fuel is a razor-thin 10 to 15 cents. That's it.
Because those fuel margins are practically microscopic, operators are forced into this fascinating economic dynamic called rockets and feathers. Here's how it works. When wholesale costs rise, owners have to immediately push their retail prices up, shooting up like a rocket, because they literally cannot afford to absorb the loss. But when costs finally drop, the retail prices float down slowly, like a feather. Why? Because they have to hold prices higher for longer just to recoup the money they bled during the spike. Everyone hates it, but it's not malicious price gouging, it's pure survival.
And that tiny, stressful margin sets up the absolute biggest plot twist of the entire industry. There's this massive revenue inversion happening right under our noses. Fuel brings in over 67% of the station's total revenue, but it generates only 38% of the profit. Meanwhile, the convenience store inside, it makes up just 35% of the revenue, yet it generates over 61% of the total gross profit. It's wild. The fueler is literally just a low-margin trap to get you onto the property. The inside store is the real profit engine.
If you want to understand why that inside store is so incredibly powerful, you really only need to know one number: 90%. That is the massive gross margin on a single cup of brewed coffee. Think about it. The beans, the paper cup, the plastic lid, all of that costs the owner maybe 23 cents, but they turn around and sell that exact same cup to us for $3 to $5. So when you do the math, a single cup of coffee makes more bottom-line profit than a customer outside pumping 12 whole gallons of gas into their SUV. It's crazy.
And this is exactly why mega chains like Wawa, Sheetz, and Casey's have spent decades building out these massive, high-quality food programs. I mean, Casey's operates one of the largest pizza chains in the entire US, right inside their gas stations. They figured out a long time ago that the food is the actual business. The fuel? That's just the glowing billboard pulling you off the highway.
The really smart operators boost their bottom line with what we like to call the high-margin heroes. Take an automated car wash that regularly exceeds a 50% profit margin. Then you've got ATMs and lottery terminals bringing in steady commissions with absolutely zero inventory to manage. And notice how modern stations are all adding EV chargers now? Why do you think that is? It's all about dwell time. A driver charging their car for 30 minutes is definitely going to walk inside, buy an overpriced coffee, maybe grab a highly questionable roller grill taquito, and just browse. It is the single most profitable customer visit a station can possibly capture.
But before you go buying a gas station, remember that running this 24/7 retail machine is unbelievably expensive. You aren't just sitting there passively collecting cash. You have massive, relentless operating expenses piling up every single hour. A 24-hour spot needs a huge payroll. Then think about the utilities. Those giant walk-in beer coolers are humming constantly. The average convenience store pays around $23,000 a year just on electricity alone. Throw in nonstop pump maintenance, internal theft, and dealing with credit card skimmer fraud, and your costs absolutely skyrocket. And beyond those daily headaches, there's quite literally a buried nightmare that keeps every gas station owner tossing and turning at night. I'm talking about environmental pollution liability. The EPA doesn't mess around. They require double-walled tanks, high-tech sensors, and 24/7 monitoring. Because if even a fraction of those thousands of gallons of toxic, flammable liquid leaks into the surrounding soil, the entire cleanup is 100% the owner's problem.
Just to put a number on that nightmare, $154,000. That is the staggering average cleanup cost for just a single leaking underground storage tank. And hey, if that contamination happens to reach the local groundwater, that number can easily skyrocket into the millions. It's a financial risk so incredibly severe it can bankrupt an operation overnight. That's exactly why no one touches an existing station without rigorous environmental assessments first.
So, to mitigate all these crazy risks, professional developers meticulously evaluate 5 golden rules of location. They look at daily traffic counts, obviously, but they also look at easy access, because something as simple as the city building a concrete median that blocks left turns can literally cut your business in half in a day. They look for corner orientation, they map out the density of nearby competition, and they look for surrounding traffic anchors, like a highway on-ramp or a massive residential neighborhood. They know the golden rule. If you get the location wrong, absolutely no amount of operational excellence is going to save you.
Okay, let's pull all this together and look at the real-world numbers of a typical mid-sized suburban station. It really brings the whole picture into focus. Out of nearly $500,000 in monthly gross revenue, they generate about $87,000 in gross profit. Sounds okay, right? But wait, subtract over $42,000 in operating expenses and another $33,000 for debt and depreciation, and suddenly their net income is just $10,981. Think about that. Out of all that money changing hands, less than 3 cents of every dollar actually flows to the owner's bottom line.
And that brings us to the ultimate, undeniable truth of this industry. If you took away the inside store's gross profit, the profit from just selling fuel wouldn't even cover the station's basic operating expenses. Without the chips, the soda, and the coffee, this station is in the red, losing $12,500 every single month just by pumping fuel. It completely shatters the illusion we all had, doesn't it? The convenience store isn't there to supplement fuel sales. The store is literally the only thing keeping the station alive. So here's what you should take away from this explainer. The next time you pull up to the pump, take a second to look past the fuel. Look at the massive coffee station inside, the hot food counter, the car wash out back, the EV chargers, and ask yourself, are you really just visiting a gas station? Or are you actually standing in a very cleverly disguised convenience store and restaurant that's just using $3 gas to fill its parking lot?